I recently made a video showing you how to use whole sheets of stamps to stamp out various pieces of ephemera, and we could use our distress inks and our distress spray stains and our distress oxide sprays to color the backgrounds. Today I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to take these images which I've cut out from those sheets, and I'm going to create them into more dimensional pieces of ephemera. I will link the video where I did the stamping in the description box below, so you'll be able to watch that. And I'm now going to show you a sheet that I have designed just using a piece of A4 paper, where we're going to cut out different types of ephemera and then make them up. So this is the template that we're going to be following. We're going to use this A4 piece of paper that I've marked out with the measurements to make slide specimens, file folders, a little pocket, some specimen cards, a slide holder, a tag, and some tabs. If you want to take a screenshot, then I would suggest you do that now. So the map that I have here is an Ordnance Survey map, which is a lovely map because it's got a kind of cloth backing to it. But once I open it out, it is absolutely enormous, and it's quite difficult to put through my guillotine. But if I move this piece of paper here, you'll see that I have a lovely range of colorings, from all the sort of earth tones where obviously the mountains are, down to the greener colors where we have rivers and lakes and things like that. And then at the bottom, sorry about the noise, you've got all these different markings which give you scales and different reference points, and then you have the numbers and the latitude and longitude lines. So in order to make it easy, I'm actually just going to take my A4 piece of paper, sorry, let me just try and fit this on my desk, and I'm going to just lay this on top of my map like that. I have a ruler here, and this is not going to be 100% accurate just yet, but I'm hoping it's going to be accurate enough. So I'm going to put my ruler onto the map. I'm going to put my paper onto the map, and then I'm going to just take my pencil and my ruler and mark it on the front so that I can actually see where I'm getting my different patterns. I'm going to have some of the lovely scale features that I'll be able to use, and I'm going to mark this, and then I'll go and cut this out, and then we'll see how we do from there. I've cut out my map now, which is the same size as my A4 piece of paper, so I won't be needing this just yet. But just to mention that you can pick up these maps in your charity shops for about 50p or £1. I don't think I paid more than that for this, and it is actually a really nice quality map. Now I'm going to actually take my map, and on the reverse side I'm going to transfer all these markings and cut them out. Now you can see that I have loosely marked out what I need to cut, and if you have a look at this, there are strips that are the same width that make it very easy to slice this all up. I haven't at this stage added in all those little details. I'll do that when they cut. So I'm just going to simply cut these up now with my guillotine, and then go and mark out the smaller markings. I just want to use my cutting mat to do that, just so that I'm very accurate, especially where I'm cutting out windows. But these give you very, very easy lines to cut with. And I'm going to get out of one A4 sheet of map paper, I'm going to get 10 different pieces of ephemera, which I think is pretty good. And yeah, I'm doing this slightly more kind of field notes, entomology kind of cartography style, but obviously you could use this template to do any other kind of ephemera that you'd like. It's just that the map lends itself towards that. Right, let's do these little ones. These ones that I've marked tab could also be postage stamps. They could be a kind of ticket of some sort. They don't have to be tabs. And then you don't have to do 2 slide specimens. You could just do one and use the other one for something else. So it just gives you a guideline. Okay. Right, so I'm going to mark off the slide specimen little windows, and then I'll come and cut those out. Now, having cut out all my pieces, I'm just putting them on top of my original drawing or my template to make sure that I have everything that I need. I've gone ahead and cut out the little specimen slides, taken out their windows, which here gives me another piece of ephemera that I can make up. I've got 2 little tabs here, and what I'm going to do for both of the tabs is just to quickly round off the corners, just so that they have a nice feel to them. And when you do this, it does mean that when you've got a whole desk full of bits and pieces, it starts to make it a little easier just to keep a little bit of order. So that's the one tag. I'm going to be obviously inking all of these. I'm just going to do the other one, and this is lovely because it's got all these little bits of the scale on here that were at the bottom of the map. So it's nice detail in there already, small markings, which is lovely for a small piece of ephemera like this. So there we've got our 2 tags. Sorry, not tags, tabs. So I'm just going to put those there. I've got my 2 specimen slides which I've cut. These are the single ones. So I've got those independently, and then from the windows that I cut out, I've got those 2 little pieces which I can make. This is now my tag, and I've cut that out. I am going to just look at the orientation of the words on here, just quickly fold that in half, and then I'm going to use my crocodile with the large eye hole just to punch out a hole. And then I'm going to put an eyelet in, and I think I might use this nice orangey color which picks up on some of the detail in the map. Goodness me, they're rolling around in here. Come on. And with these you do need to just push the little shunt part or the stem through there. And then if you're using your crocodile, put the spike part or the one that's got the shaft in through from the top so that you're pressing at the bottom, and give it a good squeeze, and you have one nice eyelet. Oopsie, why have I got stuck here now? Goodness, that wasn't meant to happen. There we go. It's just hooked at the back. Okay, I'm going to crimp that again quickly because that hasn't worked out nicely. In fact, let's abandon that one. I didn't squeeze it hard enough, I don't think. And good to see mistakes, because that, if you're watching me doing mistakes, you'll know what to do. So give it a good squeeze, and there you've got a nicely crimped edge at the back. So for this one, I also would like to round the tag, so I'm going to slide that in, get my little corner into this little notch. Oh, I wonder if something's stuck inside here. Not going in easily at all. Oh, I know why. Alright, I might have to cut that by hand. It's not sliding in because I've done that first. Silly me, I should have thought about that. Right, then when I've come to do my file folder, I've taken that length of map paper that I have. I've measured 1 centimeter down and left a 2 centimeter area there for a tab, and I'm going to fold that in. And I think here what I'll do is that I will round these corners, and I'll see if I can do both of them together like that. And then I'm just going to round the inside edge. I'm going to leave the actual part that sticks out square like that. So I think that will be quite nice. I can always change that if I decide against it. This is the little strip that I cut off from the top here. Let's keep that. We don't know what we're going to use it for. So for the pocket here, I measured in 1/2 centimeter, used the side of my ruler to fold that in to make this little pocket, and then I just gently folded this across, and I used a circle punch just to punch that out, and again I have a little piece that I could use there. This is my strip of slides or slide holder, and I've measured that out, and again I've got 3 little pieces left over, and then I've got 2 specimen cards which you'll use the back for journaling and things like that. So the next thing now is just to ink up all these edges before we get started. So I've inked up quite a lot of my things, but for those of you that don't know how to do this, I'll just show you. I've got a little blending tool here, and I'm just working over an old envelope, and by inking up the edges like this, you are actually just creating one color that harmonizes all the other colors that you're going to be working with here, because some of the colors, if you look at the contrast between the map that doesn't have the ink and that does, that looks very bright and new. So I'm using Vintage Photo, and I'm just lightly going over the edges, and it's just drawing your eye together to make everything harmonious. I'm next going to do this file folder, so I'm going to open it out and just ink around the edges of this. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to wobble the table. It just goes with inking, I'm sure. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go all the way around the edges, and then I'm just going to use my little mini block that I've got here, and I'm just going to just slightly deepen the edges around the edges. This gives it quite a nice sort of old worldy feel. I like the little mini blocks for doing this rather than the big ink pad. You can also use the side like that if you wished as well, and I find that that gives it quite a nice neat line without actually giving too much on the edge itself. So you can go over it a couple of times, or you can just simply do a light coating. And then when I've folded this, sorry, I didn't really have a fold in the map page itself, so I've had to create a new one. I'm going to just ink the fold on both sides. So I'm going to do that on that side and that on that side as well. And then when I come to do the little strip that I'm going to use for my slides, again I'm just going to ink around the edges. You could use your blending tool to do this. This just works very quickly for me, and it doesn't make the table wobble. Difficult, eh? One doesn't think of these things sometimes when you're busy working. Right, and then the fun part comes after this, because we're going to be putting all the embellishments on and gluing some of these pieces together. I'll just use this to create a little bit of depth on these inside lines. Just adds a little bit of detail. I thought it would be quite fun to do a strip of slides like this, almost like a film strip, so that one could have it almost as like a belly band, or you could use it as a tab of some sort. Right, so let the ink dry, and we've got all our pieces ready, and we'll start assembling things. Well, here we are at the fun part of the video where we start to decorate things. So I'm going to start off with this tag, and I have selected a couple of pieces of ephemera. This is part of the scale, and this was one of the cutouts from my strip that I've got with the slides. I'll show you that in a minute. I just don't have enough hands right now, so I'm just going to put some glue onto this and then glue it down onto my tag itself. And I've been working with this, bearing in mind that I'm busy with a field notes journal, so all the things that I'm using have that along those lines. So I've stuck that down. Now I'm going to stick down this bug, arachnid, creepy crawly, whatever you want to call it. Right, I'm going to pop this onto here. I quite like the fact that I've got some other things of interest underneath. And then I have these numbers, which could be a specimen number, so let's get these stuck down. That's cool. And I have this little 3, which I'm also going to pop on. So I'm trying wherever possible not to use anything that wasn't part of that video where I did the stamping. to make ephemera, just using the map as an extra. And there is one thing that I've used that's not part of it, just because I didn't have it. Alright, so there we have a little tag. The next thing is I'm going to just show you the file folder, I think. So on this one I've inked all the edges and I've cut out my little notch, and I used my circle punch to create that little circle there, and when I punched it out I'm left with a semicircle. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue along this edge at the bottom, and I'm going to just slide that in so that it lines up with my circle more or less. It won't be a perfect circle. And then I have this tiny little it's almost illegible because it didn't stamp very nicely, piece of card, but it has got a label in it, and I think that will be perfect just to go onto the corner of my file folder. So I'm going to stick that down next, just in that little spot there. That's great. Then part of what I stamped when I was doing my mass make were some of these on one of the stamps which have dates. And so for this one I have some double-sided tape at the back, and I am going to, I think I'm going to put some in the corners because I almost wanted to create a little bit of a tuck spot, as well as this being something that has dates on it. So let me just put a little bit more double-sided tape here, and I think I'll be wise to get my pokey tool. Gosh, I don't know if you're like me, but I've been busy playing around with this, and my desk is a bit of a mess where I've been sitting working, so not easy to find all these things. Okay, so just peeling off the double-sided tape. I'm going to place this under the tab of this file folder, but I've got that gap where there's no adhesive, and that, let's line that up a little bit away from the edge. That will give me a little tuck spot for this little piece of ephemera. And then I have this little arachnid, which is part of that family, and I'm going to use one of these little cutouts. These were from the specimen slides, like that, and I'm going to stick this down onto here just so that it has a bit of a backing which breaks up the map, so that you don't just have a continuous sheet of green or the brown. Don't necessarily have to put it always into the center, so I'm going to offset that. I have some double-sided tape here on the back, and I'm just going to lift that off and stick this down. Nope, it hasn't stuck, so just make sure you rub it really well. There we go. Oh, come on. I never have any fingernails as such because I teach horticulture to adults with special needs, and my hands are always in the soil, so I tend to keep my nails really short because they just get so grubby. Right, so let's pop that more or less there. And then I have this lovely number that I'm going to pop on. Just a bit of glue, like that. Oh, I'm liking that. Okay, so there's a nice little file folder. We've got our little tabs here which can go onto anything. I'm going to move on to just show you a couple of the other things that I have been fiddling with. So this here was the one that we made to have all the sequential little slides. So I've used double-sided tape at the back, and I've secured some acetate, or that thick overhead transparency sheeting, the one that goes through the copy machines. And then I have these little stickers, which, as lovely as they are, they're a devil to get the adhesive backing off. But when you do, you can pop those onto there. My plan now is to stick this down onto this piece of map paper. So this will be using the inside or the back of the map. The back of this has all this lovely sort of scales and grids and things. So if you're using it as a piece of ephemera, it's going to be really good. So I'm just going to put a little bit more double-sided tape on here just so that this sticks really well. And then I'm going to stick it down onto the map, and from there I will trim it. Okay, let's do that. Double-sided tape I do love, but it's not suitable for everything. But when you've got a thick piece of textured card like this map is, and you've got a big area to glue down, I do find it works because it gives you a nice strong adhesion. Right, so let's just put a little bit in here. I'm going to do these center bars as well because I don't want the acetate to stand away from the backing. So I feel that this is going to just make it look better. And the little bars in between are 1 centimeter wide, and I've got a border all around the slides of 1 centimeter. And we'll just do the last one here quickly. That. Right, so let's make sure that the edges are well rubbed down. Then we can start peeling this off. Very satisfying, the long pieces that come off. We've had some very, very welcome rain here today because, gosh, you know, over winter and indeed up until now, which is early spring in the UK, we've had hardly any rain whatsoever. And I was just saying to one of my colleagues, the grass is actually brown already, which is unusual because that's normally a sort of a July, August kind of thing. I don't water grass down where I am, there's just too much of it, but it's noticeably dry. Everything else is flourishing, but ahead of time, which is also unusual. Right, so I've got the tape off, and I'm just going to quickly check my orientation. Yeah, so I'm going to line this up here with the bottom because it's closest to me and I can see best, and I'm just going to press everything down nice and securely, and then I'm just going to grab my scissors and trim around the edge, and then I'll ink up the reverse side so that if I wanted to use this as a tuck spot or a belly band of some sort, I'd be able to use both surfaces. So let's just quickly ink this edge here once again, and we'll just do the back of this. And I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. I just think it's very different just to have a strip of slides like that. Happy with that. Right, so we had the next one that we were doing were these little specimen slides, and I went ahead and I made one of these. So I had some field notes, stamped images with these little birds, and this particular one had a little piece of text at the bottom like that. So I cut that off, put that inside the frame, and then put those on. I didn't put the acetate inside on that particular one. But obviously you could carry on and do that if you will. Then the next thing that we had was this little envelope, and again I punched out a semicircle there and I inked inside so I can tuck things in. And on this one I had a fold where I had some of the back of the map coming through, put a bit of ephemera there, and I'm really happy with how that one's turned out, because that could be a very, very nice part of any kind of a journal really. And I put some brads in, so that's really cool. And then we had these two specimen cards. I went ahead and made this one, where again this is just ephemera that I was stamping the other day. This is the little one that we made up together just now. Okay, so let me just get myself a little bit more organized. That one was that one was the tag. This is the one that I made up for you just now. And then I did two different things as well, just to add to it. I made a little envelope, also using some of the ephemera there. You could actually cut out a piece of plain card for writing your address on there. And then I just made this journal tag here and used one of the tabs that I'd stamped the other day. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope it's given you some ideas, just showing you. We first of all stamped all these images onto some mixed media paper. Coloured them with our distress stains and distress inks and distress oxides, cut them out, and now we've gone one step ahead using a map just to create all of this. So making ephemera doesn't have to be expensive. Please subscribe to my channel. I would love you to support me as much as I love having you as part of my community. And if you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Bye for now.